We're going to be going over the quadratic formula. For quadratic formula, you will be given a quadratic in standard form. It will look like this. ax squared plus bx plus c. A represents the first number. B represents the number with the x. So A has two x's, B has one, C has none. So when I read this equation here, I know that this would be A, this would be, that would be C, and there would be no B. There's no B in the middle of them. So I'm going to plug them in to the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. When we rewrite this, I'm going to leave parentheses wherever I plug in a number. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to go through and plug in. The b is 0, a is a 3, c is a -3, and a again is a +3. When I simplify it, I'm going to enter my calculator. Let's check first. -0 is just a 0, plus or minus the square root. I'm going to enter this into my calculator to check what this piece is going to equal. And when I enter that in, I get 36 over 2 times 3 is 6. 0 plus or minus the square root of 36 is 6 divided by 6, which is equal to a +6 over 6 and a -6 over 6, and those reduce to a +1 and a -1 as our solutions. On the next example, I'm going to write out the quadratic formula. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We rewrite it, but with parentheses to plug in our values. All over 2a. Plug in. Our a has the n squared, b has one n, c has none, so we get -9. A is a 2, c is a -110, and a again is a 2. We simplify it. 2 negatives make a +9, plus or minus the square root of. I enter this inside into my calculator, and we will get 961 over 2 times 2 is 4. When I simplify that, we get 9 plus or minus the square root of 961 is 31 over 4. Then we can separate it out. 9 plus 31 over 4. 9 minus 31 over 4. 9 plus 31 is 40 over 4, which reduces to 10. 9 minus 31 is -22 over 4, which reduces to -11 over 2. And those are our two solutions using the quadratic formula. Problem number 5. X equals -b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Rewrite it, but this time we're going to use parentheses for the numbers we are going to plug in. We have A, B, C. So we plug them in. B goes in first, then the A, C, all over 2A. When we reduce it, we get -3 plus or minus the square root. Enter in the inside into our calculator, and we should get 441 over 6. 2 times 3 is 6. -3 plus or minus the square root of 441 is 21 over 6. Split it up into the two solutions, -3 plus 21, -3 minus 21. -3 plus 21 is 18 over 6, which equals 3. -3 minus 21 is -24 over 6, which equals a -4. And those are our solutions. In the next case, we have A, B, C, and I'm going to rewrite the quadratic formula with my parentheses, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I plug them in, plug in the b, plug in a and c over 2a. -4 plus or minus the square root of, enter this into the calculator, so we get 4 squared minus 4 times 4 times -99, and we get 1,600 over 8, which is equal to -4 plus or minus square root of 1,600 goes to 40 over 8. Split them up into two solutions. -4 plus 40 over 8, -4 minus 40 over 8, which equals 36 over 8. If I split those in half, I get 18 over 4, and I can reduce it one more time to 9 over 2. On this one, I get -44 over 8, which is equal to -22 over 4, and then I can reduce it again, -11 over 2. So you'll notice on all of these forms, my quadratic was equal to 0, equal to 0, equal to 0. So when we get a situation where our problem is no longer equal to 0, we need to move all of our terms over so that we have equals 0. So if I add 3n squared over, that cancels out and I get 0 equals 3n squared is first because it has the highest power, minus 3n minus 6, and now it's in the same form that we had it before, a, b, c. So we can write x equals -b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Plug them in, b goes first, a, c all over 2a, which gives us two negatives make a +3 plus or minus the square root. Enter this into your calculator, and you should get 81 over 2 times 3 is 6, which is equal to 3 plus or minus 9 over 6. Two solutions. 3 plus 9 is 12 over 6, which equals 2. 3 minus 9 is -6 over 6, which equals a -1 for our solutions. On problem 16, this 11x needs to be over with my other two terms, so I'm going to add 11x to both sides. So I get 4x squared because the power is bigger, then the next will be plus 11x. minus 3 equals, that's gone, so 0, A, B, C. B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. B goes first, A, C all over 2A. So we get negative 11 plus or minus the square root of, enter this into your calculator, and we should get 169 over 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 169 is 13. And we get two solutions. Negative 11 plus 13 is equal to 2 over 8, which is 1/4. And then negative 11 minus 13 is negative 24 over 8, which equals negative 3 for our solutions. Now I'm just going to go through how to move them all over and to get our terms on the same side, and then you can do the quadratic formula on your own. So in this case, I have two terms on this side. I want to move one over, so I'm going to add it. Negative 3n squared minus 4n plus 132 equals 0. A, B, C. Plug it into the quadratic on your own. You should, okay, and then 18, the 99 needs to be over with the two terms, so I'm going to subtract it. So we get x squared minus 2x minus 99 equals 0. There's your A, B, C. When there's not a number in front, it's really a 1. If the term was missing, then B would be a 0. And that is how you use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic function.